Welcome to another episode of Q&A with Pastor Andrew F. Carter. And today, because of your guys' encouragement, we have back in the studio Mr. David Joy Choi. You guys welcome him in. You guys gave him the nickname David Joy Choi. Give him a welcome in. David, thank you for coming on today. And I believe that our conversation today will be a blessing to many. The people after your last episode were in the comments and they were just like, man, your story is encouraging. It's inspiring. Well, one of the big comments is they said that they love your energy and the joy that you bring to the podcast. You are a light. And I just have to say that I couldn't agree with that more. You are a light in our ministry. You are a joy to be around. And even like we talked about, people just love being around you, man. You are a man of God. So thank you for being on today. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
So look, let's jump right into it. You are a Bible guy. You read your word consistently. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Now, how often do you read the Bible?
Every morning and every night.
Every morning and every night,
And
without
a system.
fail. A system.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, it sounds top secret. Do you?
No,
do you want to share it? What's the system?
Well, so without sounding legalistic, what I like to do, this is a recent thing. I'll start from the Old Testament. I'm on Genesis right now. I'll do a chapter or two, depending on how I feel, and then I'll jump over to Proverbs, and then I'll finish off with Matthew.
Okay.
So one old Proverbs and then one new, and then at the end of the night, I'll just read the Psalms.
Okay.
And then with that, I just feel like I get the whole day,
Wow.
like David says, morning and night, meditating on his word.
Wow. That's awesome. I think that's a great system. So you're going to work your way through the Old Testament. You started in Genesis. You'll work your way through. You jump over to do a proverb. Do you just do that based on the date? Or
Yes.
So whatever the day is, you do that proverb, and then you're working your way through Matthew. Once you go through Matthew, will you work into John?
Exactly.
Okay. So you're going to inch your way a chapter or two a day in the Old, in the New, a proverb, and then you end the night with a psalm.
Yeah.
Boy, I like that.
Well,
That's
the reason for that, though, is I have ADHD.
Okay.
So if I just try to sit there and read Genesis all the way through, probably about 2 or 3 chapters in, I'm just going to drift.
Yeah.
And so it's no different than when we're scrolling through our phones looking from reel to reel.
Right.
They're different things, right?
sure.
That's what I like to jump from thing to thing. And I do the same with like books.
Okay.
So right now I'm currently reading 5 other books. Kind of like what you're doing. You do 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
I'll do like maybe 2 or 3 pages until my attention starts to drift.
Gotcha.
So that way I'm able to kind of retain. I'll take a break. I'll just munch on what I read and then move on to the next thing.
That's
And
great.
Yeah, and I've replaced that with just like mindlessly scrolling,
Right.
and it's been so beneficial.
That's good. I like that you said that you have, is it ADHD or ADD?
Honestly, I don't know the exact term for it, but
Yeah,
I know that my mind will drift
For sure,
after
for
some
sure,
time.
for sure.
So it's not like clinically,
Right.
Yeah,
but I would say you definitely do. I would say that you do because I do. I do as well. And the more that I'm in ministry, the more that I find that a lot of leaders actually have that. I've even heard people say that it can be a gift or a curse. So in the gifted sense, you have the ability to multitask and you have the ability to, do a lot of things at a pretty high level. Or the things that you're passionate about, you give yourself 100% into. However, if you're not interested in it, it's like it can't hold your attention.
Yeah.
It can't hold your attention.
There
That's
you go.
good. So you read the Bible regularly. What translation guy are you? What kind of translation do you typically lean towards?
So I have 2 that I bounce back and forth from. Is the NIV and then I want to say the Voice.
Okay.
So the Voice is cool because it's like broken up like into a script. So it'll have Jesus and then his words and then whoever else, like Matthew, whatever, and then it'll just kind of break it up like that.
Yeah.
And so it's gives it a different like dynamic to it.
Yeah.
But I like that NIV.
Yeah.
It's just what I'm used to.
For sure. There's a lot of people out there who are purists and they're just like, it's got to be KJV or nothing. And it's like, man, I can't rock with that because I don't speak in thous and these, and it doesn't, it makes sense, but it's like, again, my ADD won't allow me. I start getting lost in the sauce, man. So I really like that. I haven't read The Voice. I'm going to definitely check that out. You guys in the comment section, we've done this in the past. What version do you guys prefer? What translation do you guys typically run to? And then go out there and check it out. Check out The Voice. It's just another tool in the tool bag of having a better understanding of Scripture and just kind of walking and knowing the Lord. So as a Bible guy, who would you say, and you can only have one, who would you say is your favorite Bible character besides Jesus?
Okay. I'm going to have to go with Joseph.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph Old Testament, not Joseph, father of Jesus.
Yeah, Joseph Old Testament, Joseph the dreamer.
Tell me why.
If you just look at the trajectory of his life, him just being kind of outed by his brothers, and part of it is his fault. He's probably braggadocious,
Yeah.
like, look at my jacket.
Look at my new coat.
Exactly, right? But then at the same time, like, he held on to the dream that God gave him. And through it all, regardless of what phase of life or stage he was in or season, he was faithful.
Wow.
Even in prison, right? Like,
right.
especially after he helped, did he help was it the baker?
The baker,
It was the
yeah,
baker.
with the dream,
yeah, and he told him, hey, don't forget about me,
Yeah.
right? And he forgot about him.
Right.
Yet he wasn't bitter. He just kept going at it and just doing what he was supposed to do. And then in time, God revealed everything.
Wow.
And at the end, it's just, he had every right to be vengeful to his brothers, but instead he turned around and started crying.
Wow.
And that's powerful to me. And it's a figure of Christ, right?
Right.
What he did. And so in the end, why did God put him in that position was because that he wanted him to bless his people. He foresaw the famine coming and all these things. And it was actually part of the plan so that the Israelites could flourish.
Yeah.
And so Joseph, he's a man.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you mentioned that he held on to a dream, right? The dream that God gave him. In your life, what dreams are you holding on to that you haven't had a chance to see come to fruition? I know that's deep, but talk to me.
So I have a whole list,
Okay.
and I'm just kind of waiting patiently on God to see, when to make the next move. But I do have a lot of dreams. I want to trust God with it, and I'm going to butcher this quote, but it was something about like, if you're not dreaming big enough, you're not trusting in God or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, I guess, like be obedient in the now and then just ask him for guidance in the next step and then just kind of see things unfold.
Yeah.
So, I'm not at liberty to discuss like some of the major dreams, but, I do want to, bring to life certain things that maybe have been dormant.
Yeah.
And so those are things that, I want to, just see what happens with the Lord.
That's good. There's another quote that goes something to the effect of like, not everything that God shares with you is meant to be shared publicly.
Yes. Yeah.
So some of those private dreams are best to not share publicly until they come to fruition because sometimes people will unknowingly try to sabotage. Again, maybe not intentionally or intentionally. You never know. But I respect that and I like that. So we've talked about this before. You're 40. I'm going to be 40 this year. One thing that kind of really opened my eyes. I've spent time with older people, and I know that you have too. You mentioned you can get anything from older people or younger people. You're no respecter of age in the sense that God can use either. One thing that helped me, man, is I've spent time with some older people in their 80s and 90s, and they've talked about the different careers they've had, the different dreams they've seen. It's interesting because if let's just say we live to be 90 years old, we're not even halfway done. We're not even talk about the pressure that kids have today, and this is just out of left field, but the pressure that they have to have everything figured out by 20, 30 years old. They set up these, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing in my life. I'm 25 and I don't have it figured out. And it's like, talk to a kid who might be like, pressing themselves to have everything figured out from somebody who's 40 who's still chasing and believing dreams.
Yeah. First off, as cliche as it sounds, I would say that you have to trust God's plan over yours. But the main thing there is as you go through life, and I guess I'll share something my mom said with me, life goes in phases. And so when you're 10 years old, life seems to be moving at 10 miles per hour. When you're 20, it goes at 20, right? 30, 40, it just speeds up.
Wow.
But with every phase also, from 0 to 10, that's like your time with family, right? Your childhood. And 10 to 20, that's like your schooling. You're trying to figure out like, who do I get along with? And then 20 to 30, that's when you're trying to figure out your career path. So every phase of life offers something that the other cannot, right?
Yeah.
And so that being said, I see life as you're born and you're given a Lego piece. And then as you get older, you keep collecting pieces along the way. And at the time, like when you get it, it might not make any sense. But when you get to a certain age, you look back and you look at all your pieces and you can create something with that now.
Wow.
And so that's how I view like just work, just be faithful with what you're doing now, right, to the best of your ability. And then from there, what God would do is he'll take all of your training, all of your experiences, the raw material that you have, and then from there, he'll use you for whatever purpose you've been called to. And so even my own life, I look at like my profession as a barber and then a restaurant owner, and then now going into a few other things. I see how they all kind of bleed into what God is calling me for. And I'm really excited because now it's like, hey, those jobs weren't meaningless. Right? I've worked a lot of other jobs and they all add something of value. And so you have to choose to look at it that way, because a lot of times people get stuck in this mode of like, I hate my job. Right? But no, those opportunities are given to you so that you can work on your character. Or you can also realize, hey, this isn't what I really want to do. Let me do something about it and figure out the next step. So yeah, it's tough because you want to know now, right? But then we have to also have patience, right? Nothing is just handed to you like overnight. And so that's my advice for that.
Every time you talk, there's so much wisdom. Well, your mom is so wise. That 10 to 20, 20 to 30. Like if you guys are watching this, listen to the wisdom that this man is sharing. This is very, very similar to the picture of, what was that wise man's name? Oh, Mr. Miyagi, right? Mr. Miyagi. Think about what he had Daniel doing, right? Wax on, wax off, had him painting the fence. These, in Daniel's mind, they're meaningless, Mr. Miyagi. You got me out here in the sun. My friends are out riding bikes, having a good time. You got me waxing a deck. You got me painting a fence. But what he didn't know is that this somewhat meaningless work that he was doing was actually helping him. Hey, he's going to block on defense, right? Now he's doing the crane, man. He's over here. Now he's versed in what it was that he was called to do because of the puzzle piece that he was putting together, man.
Absolutely.
Boy.
Yeah.
That's good. Give it to me. That's good stuff. So on a lighter note, my question for you, the people are asking, nobody's asking, I'm asking, I'm just interested. So I follow you on social. Bro, you are a man who likes to eat a lot of food, right? You're a fit guy, but you eat so much. In fact, you came here and you brought snacks today. Every time you come, you're always trying to give me what was the walnut when we were at Outreach? It was some kind of a walnut. Last time you brought what was that?
The donut with the corn and cheese.
A corn donut, and now today you bring another thing. What is your favorite food?
Man, that's a tough question. My favorite food, I'm going to have to go with just Korean food because the variety, there's just so much that you can choose from.
Yeah.
So, okay. Korean.
I feel like that's a little biased, but I don't think that you're wrong. I think one of my favorite foods is Korean barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
We have not gone and hit a Korean barbecue spot. I see you're constantly frequenting Korean barbecue places. Yeah, So good. So good. Okay. Talk to me about your life of worship. When it comes to worship, are you somebody who listens to worship music on a regular basis? Or do you typically listen to secular music? Like, talk to me on your stance when it comes to music and worship in general.
Yeah. So I typically like to set aside time in my day to worship. Okay. I have a prayer closet that I go into, and for me, how I view worship is it's basically prayer, right? Like you're talking to God in melody. So sometimes when we sing, especially in public, we're more concerned about how we sound versus how we look to God. Right. And so when I'm in my prayer closet, I can literally just sing without a care in the world, and I just put a melody to my prayer. Okay. And so with music, there's so much power in frequency.
Correct.
And so, I mean, if you think about when you're sad and you listen to a sad song, you get sadder, right? When you're like, at the gym, you listen to like something with high BPM, you start getting like more energized.
They say not to Drake and drive. So like when you're sad, don't Drake and drive because you're going to call somebody you shouldn't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm going to do one better. We grew up in the same era.
Yeah,
so, like Tupac and things like that.
Yeah,
so I remember driving in the car and having hit him up, and immediately
your seat gets back.
Yeah.
You're ready to hit him up.
It's like a spirit that kind of takes over.
For sure.
So that being said, like I'll listen to secular music from time to time, but like I have a type of music for everything that I do. So when I'm working out, it's like more like melodic EDM to kind of get my heart rate going. When I'm driving, I want it to be calm. And sometimes I'll just have like instrumentals in the background just to kind of like calm my mind. But that's usually what I do.
I love that. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, man, that hit 'em up. You're going on a drive-by. You're just going to get something from the store, the corner store, right? If you're ready to pull a strap out.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good. Do you have a favorite artist that you're kind of like vibe. So for me right now, I'm listening to a lot of Upper Room. For some reason, I'm just in this season. They're 13, 15-minute songs, and it's rhythmic, it's repetitive. It's just like holy, 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 holy. Is there somebody who you're like really into right now?
I have a couple. Red Rocks Worship, which is a church out in Colorado, and then Common Gathering, which is a group at my friend's church, Tapestry.
Okay.
And they're just, you can tell when someone sings well, and you can tell when someone's anointed to sing.
Right.
And so these guys, there's just so much authority, and you can just feel the passion when they sing. That it's not just like for show.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing.
Yeah. That's tough, man, because we're in Los Angeles, and you get that sometimes. You get people who are worshiping, who are talented, but they're not worshiping to worship the Lord. It's almost as if they're using their gift to glorify themselves. And it's hard to sometimes find people who want to come and worship just to worship, man. To lead worship is to do just that, is to lead worship of the Lord, but sometimes will allow themselves to get in the way. And doesn't mean that it doesn't sound good or it's not amazing, but you can kind of differentiate between that. Would you say those names again? It was Red Rocks?
Red Rocks Worship and Common Gathering.
Common Gathering. I'm going to have to check those out, man. So I sent you a question ahead of time, something that we could kind of discuss. And the question is this. It says, Pastor Andrew, I have a question for a Q&A. Why are there so many different names for God, i.e. Jehovah, Jireh, Yahweh, etc.? Did you have a chance to kind of think that over? And could you, maybe give a little insight on why does God have so many different names?
Yeah, I'll use you as an example. Pastor Andrew is a pastor. He's a brother. He's a son. He's a father. He's a husband, right? He's a trainer. Like, he wears many hats. But then the names of God, they're just facets of his personality. So if you really look into, like, Jehovah Nisi, the Lord is my banner. Jehovah Ra, the Lord is my shepherd. Jehovah Rapha, the Lord is my healer. Jehovah Shammah, the God who is there, right? Jehovah Sikanu, God of my righteousness. Jehovah Mikadeshkem, the God who sanctifies me. Jehovah Jireh, the God of my provision. And then there's Jehovah Shalom, which everyone knows, God of peace, and Jehovah Sabaoth, I think that's the Lord of hosts. And then like El Shaddai, Elohim, Adonai, all these names, they're just given to him in key moments in the Bible where either he'll reveal the name or the person that is going through something specific will say like, hey, like El Roy, for example. Hagar said that, the God sees me. Right? And then El Roy just means God who sees. And so all these names, I feel like create like a very intimate, it's almost like a nickname, right? We don't have a nickname for each other yet.
Right.
But when people are...
I might have one.
Let me know what it is. But then it just creates this intimacy.
For sure.
And so I think there's I saw anywhere from 16 to 31 names of God.
Yeah.
It's just to kind of get that in your head and then pray it out when you need God to heal you and call on Jehovah Rapha, right? Call him for what he is.
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of power in that as well.
I had something prepared to answer that question, but I don't think I need to because you killed it, man. It describes different aspects of his character, right? Yes. And some of them that you mentioned, we have El Eloha, mighty, or God mighty and strong. Elohim, like you said, creator, mighty and strong. Shaddai, God Almighty. Adonai, it just goes on and on and on. Jireh, provider. Rapha, the Lord who heals. Nisi, you went on. Kadesh, the Lord who sanctifies or makes holy. There's dozens and dozens of names that describe him. Yep. So I think that's an amazing answer. I couldn't have answered it better myself. Thank you for sharing that. I asked for you to have a question for me. Do you have a question for me? I
sure do. So the funny thing is I've asked you this question several times. I never got an answer. So
no.
This is the perfect opportunity.
I'm on the hook, man. What's going on?
So seeing how we've both read 12 Ordinary Men.
Correct.
Which disciples would you say you most relate to?
Man, that is a great, and that's a book by John MacArthur that you recommended, and I got and read immediately. I think it's an amazing book. If you guys haven't read that, check it out. 12 Ordinary Men, John MacArthur. It's funny because I feel like Andrew. I feel like an Andrew. who is the brother of Peter, but was one who definitely heard the message of the Lord first, was an early adopter, but then went and told his brother Peter. Peter's more of that kind of forward leader, more outspoken. But, although I'm a pastor and a leader, what a lot of people don't know is I'm really introverted. I'm very, internal. I process. I prefer spending time alone than with other people. Yeah. Although I'm called pastor and am a shepherd to people, I feel like my calling is more prophetic. I feel more of a prophetic calling or even an apostolic calling, where I think that I do, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think I do a good job of recognizing talent and people who are called, and then trying to position them and place them or to empower them in their calling. And you see that with Andrew. He saw his brother and was like, my brother would be a good fit for this. And then Peter rises up to be the leader. Wow. Although I'm a leader, I almost would prefer not to be. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, I would prefer to be an elder of the church and then to help facilitate and build other people up to take over. I mean, I've even shared with you kind of my plan for Royal City Church. It's not for me to be this lead pastor for decades. It's for me to empower and to raise people up and help them to lead the church. Basically, behind my vision that God's given me. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like that's what I'm here to do, is to be front and center, the guy on the platform. Again, why I'm inviting people like you and Jarrell and Jalen and all of the men who I've invited on here is for people to get a different look at all that God's doing and who he's doing it in. Like, I might know Jesus, but y'all should know David, and you should know his wisdom and his story, because it's so powerful and it resonates. So, yeah, man, it's funny, Andrew, because not just because that's my name, but on the flip side of that, who do you relate to? I'm curious.
Well, before I move on to that, I do want to say that I do see traces of Peter as well, because when I was reading the book, it talked about how, as a leader, you need the right life experience, and then the right raw materials, and then the right character. For sure. And I feel like you possess all of that. And then there's one word. You're ubiquitous, right? So you're curious. You're always asking questions. And they say, like, a good leader is always curious about things, about people, about things of God. And so I definitely see that leadership quality. And Peter being the rock that the church was built on, in a sense, you're kind of doing that. You're building Jesus' church, right? And so I feel like I relate more to John and James. Okay. The two brothers. The brothers, yeah. So both of them, I guess, have a characteristic about themselves that I kind of relate to. So James was known to be very zealous. He had a lot of passion, but sometimes that passion was out of control. And I remember at earlier times in my life when I was really filled with the Holy Spirit, I let my passions kind of maybe get out of hand, and I wasn't reading the room. And I think that's part of the walk, because I liken it to a guy who discovers he's able to shoot fire out of his hands, right? Right off the bat, you're not going to be able to control that. So he's going around just causing more damage than good. But the thing is, with that fire, you can light a candle. You can be a warm touch. You can light a campfire, right? Or if you want to go all out, you can shoot that fire. So knowing when to use that zeal, and also just being mindful of who you're around, because sometimes they're not meant to hear your testimony, right? Sometimes you just want to know more about them. And so that being said, I really relate with this zeal. And with John, he was all about truth. He was black and white. Right. And I love how he would refer to himself as the disciple that Jesus loved. Yeah, I always laugh about that. Yeah, but the funny thing is, he started out as being this truth seeker, but then at the end of it, he became known as the apostle of love. Right. And John MacArthur said in one of the paragraphs how truth without love is cold, harsh, and brutal. And love without truth is hypocrisy. Yeah. And he's saying you need to balance the truth with love for people. Otherwise, you just lean one or the other. Right. And so I really like that. And in the end, it talks about how John wrote more about love than he did truth in his apostles. And so for me, I remember at a time when I was a Christian, and it was all about just being right. Right. And, there was no love for people. Yeah. You just wanted the last say. But then now I realize, you need that equal balance. And so I feel like I can relate to those two in that sense. Yeah. They say truth without love is like a clanging cymbal. I think of one of the wind-up monkey toys with the cymbals, and it's just... you're speaking, but because there's no love, it's just bam, 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 bam. So
I can see that. You're like a son of thunder, Jesus, call down thunder, call down thunder and let's ruin them. And he's like, calm down, boys.
Yeah.
Like, it's all going to be good. I love your passion. I love where you're at. I love that, man. That's a great question. So as we close, last time I asked you if you had one message for the world, and that was a hit. People, they loved it because you're just like, don't take yourself so serious. None of this stuff matters. And you talked a little bit about biblical masculinity. I don't want to ask you that same question. What is one message? So we talked last time, and you said, man, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about last time. I think it was about generosity.
Yes.
What did you want to say that you didn't get a chance to say last time concerning generosity as we close?
Yeah, so I'm glad we're touching on that because I felt a little convicted.
Okay.
So the main thing is the Bible verse that every good and perfect thing comes from God. And so people who are driven and motivated and disciplined and self-control, that all comes from God. So if you're a hard worker, you pull yourself by the bootstraps and all that, like you can't boast because where did that come from, right? So really, like at the end of the day, every opportunity, every open door, every sale, every close, like whatever you have is from God. But then the next part after that is we're all going to be held accountable for what we're given, what we're stewarding, right? The parable of the talents, like each was given a specific amount. And so at the end of the day, or at the end of our lives, people, for example, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they're going to be standing before God, held accountable. What did you do with the wealth that I gave you? Yeah. And in the end, if they built their kingdom versus God's, they're not, well, first of all, they're going to have to answer to that. And, they're held accountable at the end. So even if you are blessed with prosperity, blessing, riches, you have to keep in mind, number one, sure, you did do the work, but it was God behind you that allowed the results and all that to happen. But number two, you have to make sure you steward it properly into the kingdom. Otherwise, you end up living for self. And there's a reason why all these celebrities, there was a recent post by What Do You Mean? And he was just saying, like, why are all these celebrities so unhappy? Right. Why are they all dealing with depression and anxiety when they have everything? Yeah. It's because the thing about selfishness, when you continue to live for yourself, it ends up just destroying you. Yeah. And that's why Jesus says, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. And when you follow him, he doesn't take you to places that you don't want to go. You'll realize, oh, this is where I belonged all along. Right. So that's one thing.
That's good. And I couldn't agree with you more. You look at celebrities, and they divorce at a rate that is above the national average, right? You see many celebrities, 2, 3, 4, 5 different marriages. You see them with money, but the rate of suicide is through the roof. The rate of addiction and drug abuse, alcohol abuse is through the roof. If money and fame and power truly brought happiness, why is it that the people with the most money, fame, and power are the most unhappy? Exactly. Right? So we just watched a show called Quiet on Set. It was a documentary on Nickelodeon and the child scandals that took place during like the filming of our favorite shows, the Drake and Josh, the All That. You remember All That back in the day? No. Oh, you didn't have cable. All That and the iCarly, all of the stuff that took place, and it was just talking about these child stars and because of the abuses and the things that were taking place, how they were more prevalent and they had the proclivity to go towards those things. It just reminds me of the broken world that we live in, but I couldn't agree with you more. Nothing that we have is ours. It's all his. Every single thing that we have belongs to him, and it is a privilege to give it back to his kingdom and the things that he's trying to build. So, look, man, I appreciate it. This is our conversations are always fire, always fire. Thank you for taking the time out of your bit. I know you got 6 jobs, 7 in the works. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom. I know it'll definitely bless the people. Do you have anything else you want to talk about today?
Nothing that comes to mind.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I just want to take a moment to honor you, too, and just say that you have been an answer to prayer at Royal City Church. And to me as a pastor, you've been an amazing friend. You've been extremely generous. You've been an evangelist. You've been just great, man. And like I said, an answer to prayer. I prayed for a friend like you, somebody who would go work out with me. We worked out again at 5 o'clock in the morning last week. Don't get jealous, Jalen. Jalen used to be my workout partner. He worked out with me for a little. He couldn't hang at those early morning grinds, but man, you have been just a blessing, and I look forward to seeing the dreams that God's given you come to fruition, and to be able to walk through those with you, just as a friend, man, a brother in arms. So I love you.
Love you too. Thank
All right, man. So thank you guys for watching another episode of Q&A with Pastor Andrew F. Carter. Again, do me a favor and like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Go ahead and click the notifications and leave any comments, questions that you guys have in the comment section. And do me one last favor, share this video with somebody that you love, somebody that you know, because sharing is caring. And you never know, what we talked about today might just bless them where they're at. So until next time, you guys have an amazing rest of your day and take care.